Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at films so bad that their once respected directors lost credibility in the industry.
Wow, not bad.
Number 20. Richard Kelly, Southland Tales.
Remember me, my love. Remember my name.
Richard Kelly's overnight cult following wanted him to top the thought-provoking surrealism of the 2001 masterpiece Donnie Darko. 5 years later, Southland Tales managed to bewilder the Cannes Film Festival. Several genres and a star-studded ensemble in a dystopian society on the brink of collapse. That much is accessible in the convoluted abstract plot and gimmicky set pieces across 2.5 hours.
I got soul, but I'm not a soldier. I got soul, but I'm not a soldier.
It would be a year and a half before Southland Tales got a catastrophic theatrical release, with reviews divided between fascination and contempt. Most agree that Kelly took his bizarre vision too far. He has not directed a movie since 2009's The Box, but has talked about reviving Southland Tales. Despite its own cult following, investing in Kelly's craft may no longer be worth the risk.
Revolution by surprise! My vagina will not be denied a vote in your subjective election! That's an original poem by Dream!
Number 19. Joe Dante, Looney Tunes Back in Action.
You're awfully spunky for a man in your position. How do you like that, Mr. Slap Yourself in Your Own Face?
Joe Dante made a name for himself directing absurd horror comedy mashups that felt like homages to B-movies of the 1950s, such as The Burbs, Inner Space, and the cult classic Gremlins. Considering his films already had the slapstick antics of a Looney Tunes cartoon, it seemed like a match made in heaven that he was placed in charge of Back in Action.
Well, who's laughing now? Well, apparently no one.
Unfortunately, the film was released amidst tough competition from other family films, and its middling critical reception didn't help either. While Joe Dante is still managing to find work today, it's mostly restricted to TV gigs, and his films make nowhere near the same impact they once did.
I think he likes you.
Oops!
Number 18. Renie Harland, Cutthroat Island. While Renie Harland was never a critical darling like the other filmmakers we have covered so far, he had his fair share of hits. Cliffhanger and Die Hard 2 have earned their place as iconic pieces of film history. Conversely, Cutthroat Island marked his downward spiral, as its dismal $10 million box office gross against a $98 million budget put an entire film studio out of business, and the movie itself was extremely forgettable to boot.
You like to wash things, do you? Start with your mouth.
Renie Harland never recovered after this film's failure, directing numerous flops such as Driven and The Legend of Hercules, along with being nominated for the Worst Director Razzie multiple times.
Oh, fish him out.
Number 17. Tom Hooper, Cats. The award sweeping The King's Speech established Tom Hooper's knack for lushly produced prestige. He took it to operatic heights with a brilliant adaptation of the musical Les Miserables, so it seemed there was finally a filmmaker capable of bringing the Andrew Lloyd Webber classic Cats to the screen. Unfortunately, not even Hooper could save this clunky, incoherent rendition of a corny fantasy. If the blockbuster musical was mostly about the spectacle, the movie's disturbing human cat effects even ruined that. Almost 40 years of anticipation came down to a box office bomb with historically bad reviews. Despite the esteem before this catastrophe, if you will, Hooper's notorious creative control has made it hard for him to land on his feet.
Don't get cocky!
Number 16. Martin Campbell, Green Lantern.
We say on Earth, we say, I'm only human.
Mr. Campbell directed the hit The Mask of Zorro and successfully rebooted the James Bond franchise not once, but twice with GoldenEye and Casino Royale. Campbell proved he was a capable filmmaker and seemed like the perfect choice to bring the Green Lantern to life. Alas, this $200 million behemoth bombed hard at the box office and was ripped to shreds by critics for its messy screenplay and spotty visual effects.
At what cost?
You dare enter this chamber.
The film had a troubled production behind the scenes, so it wasn't all Martin Campbell's fault, but sadly his name was attached to this train wreck, severely damaging his reputation in the long run.
Well, technically speaking, I actually sort of quit.
Number 15. John McTiernan, Rollerball. While McTiernan is the man responsible for bringing us classic action flicks like Predator and the original Die Hard, audiences and critics alike felt that he lost his edge after seeing his remake of the 1975 film Rollerball.
What is that?
I'd say it's a good time in a can.
In an interesting twist, it isn't the film itself that ruined McTiernan's career, but actually what happened behind the scenes. McTiernan was charged in federal court for lying to the FBI about how he hired a private investigator to follow the film's producer due to disagreements they were having about Rollerball. This entire lawsuit spanned nearly a decade, with McTiernan eventually spending a year in prison and finishing his sentence under house arrest in 2014.
There's unbelievable tension in this arena.
Number 14. Kevin Costner, The Postman. Kevin Costner went from movie star to Oscar-winning filmmaker with Dances with Wolves. He then becomes synonymous with 90s Hollywood epics, some of which critically and commercially disappointed. And his and Kevin Reynolds' creative conflicts behind the infamous flop Waterworld is subject to debate, but The Postman was all on Costner.
Oh, give me a break.
The 3-hour-long post-apocalyptic folly is as cheesy as it is tedious. It bombed at the box office, but won big at the Golden Raspberries. The well-received Open Range aside, Costner lost a lot of clout as an epic headliner on both sides of the camera, with his directorial comeback Horizon and American Saga bombing on the first of 4 planned installments. Costner clearly hasn't learned his lesson about over-ambition.
It's gotta be the uniform.
Number 13. Ron Underwood, The Adventures of Pluto Nash.
You should be so lucky. Every lowlife in town is looking to whack you.
Yeah, well, I'm a popular guy. What can I say?
Ron Underwood's claim to fame arrived with the 1990 sci-fi cult classic Tremors, which he followed up with the hit comedy City Slickers. While his subsequent efforts were mostly met with mixed results, nothing threw a wrench into his movie-making ambition quite like The Adventures of Pluto Nash.
Freeze! Raise your hands!
The movie itself has been unanimously reviled as an abomination for its terrible acting, writing, and special effects, with some even going as far as calling it one of the worst films of that decade. It didn't help that Pluto Nash only raked in a measly $7 million against its massive $100 million production budget. That's gonna leave a mark.
Is this the refund window?
Number 12. Guy Ritchie, Swept Away. Crime comedies were never the same after Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. Guy Ritchie then showed his range with a remake of the Italian romance Swept Away. His then wife, pop megastar Madonna, plays a spoiled socialite who gets marooned on an island with a deckhand. Somehow, all the passion and politics of the original film went overboard. All that's left is an insipid farce that drowns Madonna's charm and cheapens Ritchie's signature style.
Oh!
We can look.
See, you've got your dancing shoes on. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
The movie sank at the box office, and then it swept the Razzies. Madonna effectively quit acting, and while Ritchie remains prolific, his work has gotten strangely hit or miss with critics. Despite his undeniable influence on genre filmmakers everywhere, we don't think Ritchie himself has ever really gotten over Swept Away.
I wanted to know if a storm was coming.
Number 11. Josh Trank, Fantastic Four.
The failures of my generation are the opportunities for yours.
There were high hopes for 20th Century Fox's reboot of Fantastic Four, at least with its director. Josh Trank won critical and cult renown for the gritty superhero flick Chronicle. Unfortunately, more money didn't make for a better product. 2015's Fantastic Four was as corny as the previous film incarnations, and a lot more boring.
Oh my god.
If that didn't kill Trank's Hollywood career alongside franchise prospects, his own review did the trick. A disparaging social media post before the film's release led to Trank essentially being blacklisted in the industry. When he returned with an experimental drama about the last days of Al Capone, the mixed reception offered no redemption. Whether he's labelled a one-hit wonder or a whistleblower, Trank is unfortunately grounded.
Gotta say, it's fantastic.
Number 10. Martin Brest, Gigli.
The individual needs to be touched in some manner as to convince him of the error of his ways.
Martin Brest unleashed a string of successful films upon the movie-going scene. with Beverly Hills Cop in particular being one of the biggest hits of the 1980s. Good things don't last forever, it seems, as Gigli single-handedly killed Brest's reputation going forward.
It's turkey time.
Huh?
Gobble, gobble.
The movie won multiple Razzies, including Worst Screenplay, Director, and Picture. Gigli is additionally recognised as one of the most expensive financial failures in film history, on top of being considered one of the worst movies ever made, period. To say Gigli dampened Brest's film career would be an absolute understatement, as he hasn't directed, produced, or written any film or TV projects since its release.
I don't think I could ever be what you really want.
Number 9. Cameron Crowe, Aloha.
I will also be an invaluable addition to our joint mission. I am a quarter Hawaiian. Ho'olalea.
Cameron Crowe delivered memorable masterpieces like Jerry Maguire and Almost Famous. He also split audiences with Vanilla Sky, Elizabethtown, and We Bought a Zoo. But everyone seems to agree that Aloha took his quirks too far. The movie was already controversial for casting Emma Stone, who was the love interest and supposed to be of Chinese Hawaiian parentage. Ultimately, critics panned the plodding, incoherent story of a military contractor juggling personal drama with some shady satellite project.
You're kidding?
No.
The overambitious rom-com sure didn't draw much of a crowd. After almost a decade of development, Aloha's failure meant goodbye to Crowe's filmmaking career. And after a disastrous comeback to music in Showtime's short-lived series Roadies, it's best to stick to nostalgia for his early work.
That's nostalgia and a trap.
Number 8. Roland Emmerich, Godzilla. Though Roland Emmerich never had a towering reputation with critics, audiences didn't care. Groundbreaking blockbusters like Stargate and Independence Day made him a big enough name to bring a Japanese icon to Hollywood. 1998's Godzilla had the right director for disaster thrills, but the script was the real disaster.
What's with the chewing gum?
Makes us look more American.
Not even casual moviegoers had much patience for the nonsensical material surrounding oversized spectacle. The movie made money, but not enough to be anything more than a staple of bad Hollywood remakes. Emmerich has since become synonymous with bottom-of-the-barrel action and disaster flicks that are mostly hyped as camp. His fluff still draws a crowd, but from Godzilla to dramatic turns like Stonewall, there's no more pretending that Emmerich has vision.
You know, you misunderstand people like me, but that's okay. That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Number 7. Oliver Stone, Alexander.
Count yourself lucky you're here at all today, after your public display.
Oliver Stone's iconoclastic triumphs kept getting bigger and more stylish, but with Alexander, the scale reached a breaking point.
You've taken from me everything I've ever loved! Baby, you!
Stop it! Stop acting like a boy! You're a king!
The 3-hour-long epic plays fast and loose with the life of ancient Greek conqueror Alexander the Great. Stone attributed its box office disappointment largely to backlash against speculations on the subject's sexuality. The truth is that the dull, bloated, and dubious history lecture was far from great.
What freedom is this to bow before you? You bow before Heracles, do you not? And he was mortal.
Critics and historians have since debated the merits of Alexander, especially with its various director's cuts, but Stone could no longer be trusted with projects that massive, his subsequent work seeing inconsistent critical and commercial feedback. The dwindling output since his historic defeat in 2004 suggests that his lack of compromise is now just a liability.
I've taken nothing for myself, and all I've asked of you was one more month.
Number 6. The Wachowskis, Jupiter Ascending.
Please, this has to be a mistake.
These people don't make those kind of mistakes.
Lana and Lily Wachowski revolutionized sci-fi epics with the Matrix trilogy. Well, at least most critics say that about the first installment. The sisters' high-concept blockbusters were always debated in theme and quality, until Jupiter Ascending came crashing down. The big-budget spectacle was convoluted by nearly every space opera cliché one can imagine. Despite the dazzling special effects, it was too cheesy and blandly written to be memorable. And yet, the critical and commercial flop still haunts audiences. Even after the Wachowskis pursued their own careers, the Showtime series, Work in Progress, and even Matrix Resurrections weren't exactly hits. Although Netflix's Sense8 wound up a favourite among fans, Jupiter Ascending got them to start questioning their visionary filmmaker's vision.
And it's better to accept this than to pretend it isn't true.
Number 5. Roberto Benigni, Pinocchio.
Pinocchio!
Italian comedic actor Roberto Benigni achieved international acclaim as a filmmaker. He was particularly praised for finding wholesome dramedy in the Holocaust with Life is Beautiful. This earned him Italy's biggest movie budget ever to write and direct his own Pinocchio. The 49-year-old Benigni's first error was casting himself as the puppet who becomes a real child.
Mi piace di più questa! No!
The comedy only gets more absurd and awkward in its attempts to faithfully adapt Carlo Collodi's morbid fantasy. Benigni's Pinocchio became a legendary critical and box office disaster, effectively ending the star's global status. He even faded into obscurity in Italy. Though Benigni did find some redemption playing Geppetto in a hit 2019 adaptation of Pinocchio, there may be no cobbling his filmmaking brand. Number 4. Joel Schumacher, Batman and Robin.
Please, show some mercy. Mercy?
From romantic dramas to sleek thrillers, Joel Schumacher attracted a cult following across many genres in the 80s and 90s. His dark yet lively flair was certainly suited to the fun Batman Forever, but Batman and Robin was camp overkill.
4 million.
5 million.
That's a utility belt, not a money belt. 6 million.
7 million.
The silly production, atrocious dialogue, and nonsensical story practically destroyed the prestige in superhero movies that this franchise helped establish. It would be years before Warner Brothers attempted another theatrical Batman film, with Schumacher's planned trilogy going cold. He was rarely given big productions after that, and frequently bombed with critics and audiences. The late Schumacher is now as respected as ever for his influence and diverse classics. Still, he never lived down making one of the worst superhero movies ever.
That's gotta hurt.
Number 3. Francis Ford Coppola, Jack. Sadly, even the great director who brought us The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, and The Outsiders has stumbled. Jack felt like a complete waste of the talent, with Coppola in particular completely missing the mark in terms of storytelling and compelling direction.
I feel it down below.
The film has a vicious 17% Rotten Tomatoes score and performed modestly at the box office, a complete reversal of the reception Coppola's prior films received. Since then, Coppola has continued to make movies such as Tetro and Twixt, which we're sure many of you have never even heard of, indicating that this once-renowned director's time to shine seems to have long since passed.
Just you wait and see.
Everybody always picking on me.
Number 2. Michael Cimino, Heaven's Gate.
It's always the little skinny guys that surprise you.
2 short years after winning the Best Director Oscar for his work on The Deer Hunter, Michael Cimino received the Worst Director Razzie for Heaven's Gate. For one to go from the highest high to the lowest low in such a short span of time is shocking, especially with accusations of animal abuse on set. The film's pitiful $3.5 million box office gross sent United Artists on a panicked crash course, with the consensus being that Heaven's Gate marked the death knell for the beloved independent studio. Cimino would never direct a production that ambitious again. With director's cut restorations and long-term reappraisal, Heaven's Gate is now widely considered a classic. At the time though, Hell's Gate seemed like a more appropriate title.
Get out of here before I blow your brains out, man.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. M. Night Shyamalan, The Last Airbender.
Cannot be.
After the Revelations, The Sixth Sense, and Unbreakable, M. Night Shyamalan began dividing critics. They certainly agreed that despite Shyamalan's fight for creative control, Lady in the Water was a flop, and The Happening was even worse. At least Shyamalan seemed to still have creativity until The Last Airbender.
Okay, everybody can help us now.
Besides the controversy over its whitewashed cast, this adaptation of a beloved Nickelodeon series was a humorless, poorly made slog. So much for the planned trilogy. Shyamalan has since admitted that he was the wrong director for this project. but his return to thrillers has been hit or miss at best. I mean, there have been enough hits for Shyamalan's name to no longer automatically emit groans, but still, the one-time next Spielberg reminds us to always temper hype with filmmakers. So what are your least favourite movies from your favourite filmmakers? Please give your hopefully constructive criticism in the comments.
See? Right there, that tells me something.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.